everyone, my name is Lee and I work in the collections department here at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, and I've actually pulled a very special artifact today from our rare book collection here in Archives. And so, commonly referred to as the Big Bow book, it highlights Chief Big Bow's artistry, something known as ledger art. And so we're going to go a little bit more into depth about the history of Chief Big Bow within the Kiowa tribe and as far as the Plains Wars in the late 1800s. And we're going to zoom in and we're going to look at some unique images that he was drawing, and then we'll talk about them. All right, everyone, let's begin with the front cover. So as we can see, it says Department of the Interior, U.S. Indian Service. And then it's in a very fragile state. We can see the spine here is just coming undone. And I'm going to very carefully flip it over for you to see the back. And so you can see this government issued. And as far as this term ledger art, it's because it was created in a ledger book. So you can see lines, the pages are numbered. And so this is where we're going to begin looking at some of the images that Chief Big Bow created, that he drew during his lifetime. So here we have an image, we have several images, pages 110 to 111, looking at, we've got some hand-drawn images in pencil by Chief Big Bow. So it looks like we've got a man and a bow over here on the left side, maybe hunting, maybe deer, bison, a house, a settlement here. And then if we come over here, it looks like we've got someone prepping a hide. So we've got hides that have been stretched out. We've got some tools, some weapons. We've got some additional hides here that are being processed. And so very similar to what we would associate with Plains tribe. And so let's go ahead and take a step back. So Chief Big Bow was a Kiowa. He was born in 1833 on Elk Creek Indian Territory and roughly became a war chief 20 years later, who eventually would lead raids against Anglo settlers and other tribes through present-day Texas, Oklahoma, and northern Mexico. The Kiowa are considered one of the Great Plains tribal nations who took advantage of the grasslands, forming a horse-based culture. Due to westward expansion, created an increase in conflict developed between the Anglo settlers and the Kiowa, along with other Plains tribes. The United States military began to take action against the southern tribes by 1874, known as the Red River Wars, and by 1875, Plains tribes had surrendered to the United States, which for the most part ended the fighting. Now, how does this factor into ledger art at all? Why do we have Chief Big Bow drawing images in a government-issued book? After the fighting subsided, around 72 men were imprisoned and taken to Fort Marion in St. Augustine, Florida. These would have been Native American men that had fought against the U.S. military and were now incarcerated. So, unable to leave the grounds of the prison, they were forced to assimilate, and many of the men who in the past would have painted on hides or some other material to document, historical or significant events or something important to them, were now given ledger books and pencils to use instead. Now, the ledger book the museum owns is different. Unlike the other men, Chief Big Bow was actually never imprisoned and never went to Florida. He remained on the reservation land with members of his tribe and worked as a scout for the U.S. Army. Unfortunately, we do not have an exact date of when he was drawing or even how long he used the book. And he eventually settled with his family in Rainy Mountain, Oklahoma. And the year of his passing is unknown. But as you can see, like this image right here, we've got a couple of scenes. There's a lot of action going on in this one. Again, it's all pencil. We've got fighting. We've got a Native American settlement. We've got people that looks like they're leaving. It looks like maybe we've got a horse here, military, maybe U.S. military here. And then if I pan over here, we've got, it looks like Native Americans, maybe a settler right here, and then we've got some wagons. So ledger books really do give insight into what Native American individuals believe to be of importance. It's a new art form in and of itself, and it's the product of the United States' impact on Plains Indian culture, along with providing another example of their interactions in the late 19th century. And so this is the last image I'm going to show you in the book. It looks like we've got a couple of men here, a home, a couple animals, maybe dogs here, a horse, and then a Native American man and woman. So there you have it. That is just one of our artifacts that makes up our rare book collection. Thank you so much for taking the time to explore this book with me again. I think it's a wonderful example of Native American artwork. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about ledger art, look at the Smithsonian's website. They have a document gallery as well as tryplainsledgerart.org, and you can see some more images, and some of those are actually even in color as well. And then of course, if you have any questions, feel free to just comment down at the bottom of our YouTube channel or email us, and we can always talk about it more in depth, or we can always go off on a tangent and talk a little bit more about the Kiowa or other Native American tribes. So thank you again. I've had such great fun today, and we look forward to hearing from you. Take care. Bye.